Since my last studio tour video, a lot has changed. Not only the position of the studio in this room, but also the background, as you can tell. But most importantly, the gear that I'm using to produce everything. I've definitely upgraded a lot of different things, so I thought it would be a great time to make a new studio tour video. So stay tuned. As we go through this tour and talk about everything, I will have pretty much everything I can in the description below with a link to where you can find it on Amazon. You can also find a lot of this stuff on B&H Photo as well, which I kind of fluctuate between where I purchase from, just depending on sales and everything like that. But I'll list everything down in the description if you're interested in anything that we talk about. But we'll start with the room itself. This is just an oversized spare room in our house that I use mainly as a 9-to-5 job when I work from home, but then also have enough room in here for a separate YouTube studio, which is nice. The way I originally had it, to get kind of a different background, I had the desk pretty much right by the door, so as soon as you walked in, you pretty much ran into not only a light, but the desk, and had to walk around, and it was kind of a pain. I did like the background for that setup. You got a nice depth of field, and with all the accent lighting and stuff, it made a really nice background, but just the way it was on a day-to-day wasn't very practical. So I went ahead, and since we have this little jet out section here in this room, I was able to move everything around to where it's in this area, kind of out of the way of, you know, the office and everything. So definitely like where it's at now. Yes, I don't get a whole lot of depth of field with this one, but not a big deal. And you will see the wall behind me. I'm working on a video for this, but I do have the tactical wall Modwall panels as the background, obviously showing off the Second Amendment that we like to talk about on our main channel. But if you're not into that stuff, don't worry, it's not a main focus or anything. It's just something I thought would be a cool visual background for that channel, and that's the main video podcast that we do as well. So that was kind of something cool to work with tactical walls on, building something like this. And just since the wall panels didn't take up the whole wall, they could have. They sent me plenty to do that with, but I didn't want to make that many holes in my wall, honestly, and didn't have enough stuff to fill it up. So I went ahead and painted the wall black, which it was really weird painting a wall in a bedroom black. But once I got everything set up, it looks awesome, and I do like this background. I really did like the last background, like I said, more accent lightings and stuff like that. But just with this setup where it is, it's easier to walk around and have everything set up. And with these being modular wall panels, I can change out the different accessories that's on there. And, you know, if I get sick of where everything's mounted, I can easily change those out or set it up differently. I can put different things up there on the shelves. So the cool thing about that, it is a versatile wall system that I can change out. And if I get, you know, want to take the guns down and put something else up, you can definitely do that. So really cool to have options with those tactical wall mod wall panels. And as far as sound treatment in this room, it's not the best sound treatment. I don't have any like professional panels or anything set up, but the one good thing is it is a carpeted room, so that takes a lot of the echo out of it, and I don't have to worry about that. Plus the stuff that I have hanging on the walls, and then over the windows when I'm recording, I have some blackout curtains that'll shut. It'll also kind of reduce some of the sound coming from the outside and any daylight that I don't want in the shot as well. So moving on to the desk, this is the same desk that was in the last video. It is just a Husky workbench from Home Depot. What I like about this is its size, because we do have up to 3 people on our podcast. So this is about 64 inches long and 2 feet wide. So plenty of room to sit 3 people around this comfortably. We have done 4 in the past, but then the camera angle becomes a little weird with that. But comfortably, I can fit 3 people around this. And 2 cool features of it is that it is adjustable, so I can raise or lower it pretty easily. And then it's on wheels, which makes it super easy to move around. So if I do want to go back to that old background, I can just move it 90 degrees with the wheels, and it's super easy. And then the cool thing with this wood top is underneath, I try to do as much cable management as possible. I wanted as many cables up off the floor as I could. So I mounted a power strip underneath here and just used Velcro command strips. And then all the power cords for the computers, the Rodecaster, stuff like that, I have also going down here. And then to get the computers, if I don't want the computers in the shot, I just found some mounts on Amazon that I was able to screw here, and one holds the MacBook Air laptop, and then the other one holds the new Mac Mini. And then just from there, I'm able to plug everything in directly to those computers and keep everything up off the ground. So since we're on the topic of the computers, let's talk about what I've done with those. I initially started with the MacBook Air. It's the 2020 model with the M1 chip. It's got the 8 gigabytes of RAM, which worked for a while. Obviously, I used it for 2 years editing 4K videos, but I've quickly outgrown that because I've been having a lot of issues, especially lately, with Final Cut Pro kind of crashing on me and everything. And the export times on our hour-long podcast was just way too long. So with Black Friday, and I did a ton of research trying to figure out what to upgrade to, I ended up getting the Mac Mini, the M2 Pro chip, kind of the mid-tier one. I didn't want to spend, the price of a new MacBook Pro, which I think the base starts at like $2,000, and I didn't want to spend the money on a Mac Studio. So I found kind of the perfect in the middle, kind of more budget-friendly Mac Mini, and it comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM, so double what I was working with. I think this one has 512 SSD, but I mainly use these external SSD cards to put all my recordings on and also edit directly off of those, so I'm not using memory in the computer. And what I like about the Mac Mini is it is small and sleek and compact and easy to hide away. So it's easy to hide underneath this desk and then plug everything into the back of it. I do love that I get a lot more ports than what I had with my MacBook Air. The MacBook Air just had 2 USB-C ports, and then I had to use a bunch of dongles, which they end up failing over time. So I've gone through quite a few dongles with that, and it gets really annoying. But with the Mac Mini, especially with the Pro version, you get more ports. I still have to use a dongle for the camera, but that's not a big deal. Everything else I'm able to plug into the back of it. And the Mac Mini also looks great if you want to sit it on your desk, especially if you're one of those minimalistic style people that like a clean setup on your desk. The Mac Mini is nice and clean, and then not a whole lot of wires. You can also mount this to walls. You can mount it to the back of a monitor. So it's pretty light and easy to hide away, but still is a very powerful computer. And it has been a huge difference in my video editing. I don't have any trouble with Final Cut Pro crashing on me or anything, and the export times are much faster. So coming up to the desktop itself, I do have the Rodecaster Pro 2 just sitting on the desk, and I can easily control the audio, especially when I have multiple guests on the podcast. I can control everybody's audio, monitor it, change anything if I need to. I use this for every video, unless I'm out and about or using a lav mic. Then any other audio, I use this thing on every video, and it's definitely well worth the money. It's not cheap by any means, especially compared to the original one. And if you're looking into getting one and don't want to spend the money for this, now you can definitely get the Rodecaster Pro 1 for a lot less than it originally was. The main reason I upgraded is because I hated using the gain boosters because that brought in a lot of noise, especially with the headphones. The preamps for the headphones on the original one weren't the best, and you just heard a lot of noise. And I know it didn't come in the final product, but it was kind of hard to tell what was going to be in and what wasn't the final product. So the fact that this has enough gain to use the SM7B without a gain booster is awesome, and just a clear sound out of those headphone preamps. And the audio for this video is actually going through the Rodecaster Pro 2. It is the Rode NTG4. It's a shotgun microphone. So anytime I don't want a microphone in the shot, especially if I'm trying to do something reviewing a product, it's easier to have this microphone out of the shot than using like the SM7B getting in the way. So this is actually mounted above me, maybe about a foot away from me, and then it's just out of frame, so it's still close enough to get the sound and not a whole lot of echo. And I do have that mounted to a newer C-stand. And the C-stand is probably a little overkill just for this microphone, but I had it, so might as well use it. The microphone regular stands weren't tall enough, especially since I have this desk raised up a little more. They weren't tall enough to get out of shot. So I just went ahead and used the C-stand for that. And also on the C-stand, I have this little arm to where it's a phone mount, so I can actually use my phone as a overhead camera when I want to, and that just clips onto the C-stand as well. But I definitely recommend having some sort of shotgun microphone if you don't want one in the shot. And there's all sorts of different ways that you can mount them. I definitely had it set up differently in the last setup, but pretty much the same way. I know that there's arms that they make that attach to tripods that you can do that as well. But since I already had the C-stand, I went ahead and set it up this way, and it just kind of stays there. So if I want to turn it off and then use the other microphone, I just bring in the boom arm and that's it. So just kind of stays right there and it's there when I need it and don't want that microphone in the shot. It is an XLR only microphone, so you do need some sort of audio interface for this type. There are some out there that are USB in case you don't have an interface, but I definitely recommend a shotgun microphone in your studio. And while we're still talking about microphones, when I do videos, I can just swing it over because I have two actual boom arms that are mounted to the desk as well. And I just swing these out of the way when I don't need them. And then if I have the podcast or doing a video where I can use one of these, I just swing it back over. And on this one, I'm always changing up different microphones on this one. This one currently has the Rode pod mic on it with this windscreen. I think it makes it sound a lot better. And then this one is pretty much my setup, the one that I use, and that is the Shure SM7B. I like the sound that you get, especially when I'm by myself. The other microphone out of the bunch that I have, probably my second favorite would be the Lewitt LCT 240 Pro. That's a condenser microphone. I actually need to do a video on that one, but if you saw my initial studio tour video, you'll see I have a ton of different microphones. I was addicted to buying microphones there for a while, so I like swapping them out every now and then, but I pretty much use these SM7B on this boom arm for myself, and then I'm always changing out different microphones for other people. So since I only have two boom arms, if I have a third person who usually sits here in the middle, I just have a little desktop stand that I'll put a microphone on and just have them use that. And then that way, I don't have another boom arm kind of blocking their face or anything like that. It just makes it a little more sleek and you're able to see their face a little bit better. But again, when I don't want these in the shot, I just kind of move them out of the way here and there you go. Don't even see those anymore. And the shotgun microphone is hidden out of the shot as well. So to monitor the audio, I have a few different sets of headphones that I use. I have a cheap pair from Amazon. I can't remember the name. It's in the description below, but it's the red and black set that Chris usually wears on the podcast. And then I have an Audio-Technica pair. It's their cheapest one. I think it was like 50 bucks. Those are okay, but the ones I use all the time and highly recommend are the Rode NTH 100 headphones. These things are awesome, especially paired with the Rodecaster Pro 2. Whatever you hear in the Rodecaster Pro 2 is what's coming out of here, and that's going to be the sound on your final product. Whereas these other headphones do have some just static noise that you can hear, so that's not going to give you the true sound of what's actually being recorded. Whereas these, with the Rodecaster Pro 2, whatever I hear through these headphones is going to be recorded on the audio, and they're really great for editing because you can actually hear what is going to be in the final video. So if you're trying to get rid of any background noise or unwanted noise, you can really hear those in these headphones, and they're super comfortable. They got these thick pads on here. I've worn these things for hours at a time and haven't gotten uncomfortable, and they come with different colored cords that you can get, and they're super long cords, which is nice, especially if you have your audio interface a little bit further away. Whereas I have to kind of strategically place the other headphones just because the cords are a little bit shorter, but plenty of length with this one, almost too much. It kind of just gets in the way, but that way it's kind of nice in case I have to get up and move around. I could keep them on and still have plenty of cord. But I definitely would recommend these if you want some quality headphones, especially if you're producing a podcast and need to monitor everybody's volumes. You're really going to get the best sound and what's directly coming out of their microphones with these headphones. And sticking with the desktop, for a keyboard, I use the Logitech MX keys. This is the one that you can use for both PC and Mac because it has both buttons on there. And I do actually use this between 3 different computers. So the cool thing about these keyboards is you can use it with multiple computers, and all you have to do is press this button here and you just pair it with that computer. And anytime you want to switch between computers, just hit that button and it'll sync with that one. So I do use this with my main job on my PC, and then when I use it on the MacBook Air, I just hit the second input right there. And then when I want to go over to the Mac Mini, just hit the third button, and you can use that on different keyboards. So it makes it nice having one keyboard for 3 computers and not having to have multiple keyboards get in the way, and the fact that it's Bluetooth and just kind of sleek and minimalistic is awesome as well. And then I paired that with the Logitech mouse, their M270 or something like that. This is a great mouse. It's comfortable, especially if you're spending a lot of time editing. I used to have the mini ones just because you know, they were nice and compact, but using those for hours with editing and everything it gets uncomfortable. But this, you're able to hold in your hands and get a nice grip, and it's kind of relaxed, and there's a bunch of different customizable buttons that you can do, and then you can change the type of scrolling if you want that clicky sound or just a smooth sound. And again, with like the keyboard, I can use it on 3 different computers. So I use it on the 3 different computers that I do the keyboard on. So the Logitech products for those are really awesome. Also on the desk, I have an Elgato Stream Deck that I use from time to time. I really use this when I have a podcast and I'm changing different scenes or have different cameras hooked up. I'm able to just change camera views with this, which is super easy. Or if I want to change a scene or do picture in picture, or if I'm doing a live stream, I can see how many people are actually viewing. I can change it to comments. So the Stream Deck works with a bunch of different awesome programs, and you can use it for editing, for shortcut keys and everything like that. I primarily use it with Ecamm Live, which I record all my videos through. You'll see these things on like every YouTuber's desk, but they do make a huge difference, especially if you're live streaming. You could customize this to whatever software to help you stream a lot better and easier and not have to like move the mouse and do a bunch of different things. So the Stream Deck has been awesome, but I primarily use it as a camera switcher. Definitely going to look into doing some shortcuts with editing and stuff like that. So the last thing that's mounted to the desk that I use in every video as well is the monitor, and it's just a basic Dell monitor that I got free for work. Had it sitting around, wasn't using it, so I decided to use this. I believe it's like 27 inches, so it's nice and big, so I'm able to fill the screen with everything using Ecamm Live. And then I have it on this monitor arm that I have mounted to the desktop. And so right now I have it off camera, but to where I can actually see and preview the window, and then I can control everything in Ecamm Live. And then when I'm done recording and just want to sit down and edit, all I have to do is rotate it to where it's directly in front of me, and then I just use it as my editing computer and then doing day-to-day stuff as well. So I pretty much use this desk for not only recording videos in the podcast, but also doing all the video editing and anything else I need to do a computer with. And it's super easy to be able to have a desk set up like that. And having this out of the shot, but having the preview window is super nice, so that way you know what is actually streaming. Again, like I said, I use, just like in the last video, I use Ecamm Live for recording all the videos, and I love it. It's mainly a streaming software, but you can do a record only. So I record all my videos with this because I can control, the camera. So I have the camera set in, and then if I want to zoom it in, I can right here. So this is actually zoomed all the way out without any post zoom. So this is where my camera's set up, but within Ecamm Live, I can zoom in a little bit, depending on who I have in the podcast and how much of the scene that I want you guys to see. So that is something awesome to use as well. Having that nice big preview window so you can see what you're recording. It also has a section up here for your audio, so you can make sure your audio is recording and not clipping. And then just doing scenes, I use this a lot on the podcast. I'll bring in a clip of something, or I can do a screen share, and it's just a quick, easy click of a button. And then once you're done, you can either pause if you need to take a break, or you can hit finish, and then it just converts everything into a file. You can record up to 4 different cameras within here, kind of a newer feature that they've done within the last year. So there's actually a preview window. If I have multiple cameras in there, I get a preview of all different cameras that are connected to here, and then that way I can use the Stream Deck to switch between whatever camera I want to use at that point. So super nice to have that, a bigger computer screen to work with Ecamm Live, because I do have a lot of windows. You can close whatever you don't need, but I typically use a lot of their windows at some point during the video or stream. But it basically makes it to where you can edit your entire stream or even your video directly from here without technically have to do anything in post. With the Rodecaster Pro 2, I have sound effects preloaded I can use, and you can do intros. If we do a live stream, we automatically have an intro that we use, and just it's a click, and then it goes to the next scene, and it's awesome. So if you have a Mac computer, I would highly recommend checking out Ecamm Live. It has definitely been a game changer. I don't ever have to record in SD cards with these cameras anymore. I record everything in here, and then that way I can obviously see a preview and make sure everything is in focus. Whereas with the original ZVE10, with how far away it was, I could never see if I was in focus. And then you never know how much memory you have left in your SD card, and it's just kind of a pain in the butt to where everything is just going and being recorded to your computer, and I rarely mess with SD cards anymore. I do have a link in the description below for Ecamm Live, and I believe there's a free trial to check out just to see if it would be something to help with your production, especially if you do live streaming. I believe there will be a watermark in the free trial, but you can upgrade if it's something that you do like to get away with that. And then another cool thing is I can do remote podcast guests. So I've done 2 podcasts where we've had a guest that's been in another state, and all I have to do is send them a link, and then they open it on their computer. And if they have a YouTube setup like this, they can use that, or they can literally just use either their cell phone or laptop, click on the link, and it brings in their video and audio, and make it super easy bringing on a virtual guest to your podcast. So moving on to lighting, and lighting has been a huge struggle for myself. Coming into videos, I knew nothing about lighting, how to set it up, especially for studios. So I've been definitely learning and definitely finally upgraded to the lights that I think work the best for me. I initially started with the newer barn door LED light panels. I think they were like the 448 ones, and those were a good start. I think those are great for beginners because you could kind of learn more about lighting without spending a lot of money, and then upgrade down the road. And then you could always use those as like hair lights or whatever. I ended up finding a couple of different soft boxes, and I think the soft boxes in the last video were the ones that I ended up using, and they were just circular and they had grids, which was nice, but trying to mount those to those light panels are a pain in the butt. They don't screw on or anything, they just kind of velcro on to the back of them, and you have to have the barn doors on there, and they get bumped and the doors move, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, especially if you're moving stuff around a lot. So as good as those were, I wasn't able to get the lighting I wanted, and having one up above us to kind of act as a hair light as well, I kind of wanted to get rid of that to kind of clear things up and just make things a little bit nicer. And so I finally ended up settling on the GVM SD200D. They're the LED video lights, and they go from like 2700 Kelvin up to 5600, which I do have both of these lights set to the 5600 Kelvin. I played around with kind of lowering those a little bit, but then it kind of made my face and stuff too yellow. So the standard 5600 is nice, but then if you want to change them up, you can. You're not stuck with just that specific daylight, I wanted that option. They have RGB ones as well, but I didn't necessarily need that. So I settled on the SD 200D, which is 200 watt. They have different wattages. I think, even though these are 200 watts, I think the highest percentage I've ever used them at is like 16%. So they've been great, and I have a lot more flexibility with these. And I started off with just buying one to make sure it's like I liked it and worked, and I liked that so much that I ended up buying the second one to use as a fill light. So there's a bunch of different options to buy these lights. You can buy the light by itself, or there's different kits with a light stand and different soft boxes. So for my main key light, I have the lantern softbox, and that allows just more light, especially since I have a black wall. Kind of lights that wall up and myself a little bit more, kind of just gives a nice overall brightness to that. And so that's what I use as the main key light on just the regular stand that it came with, since I'm using my C stand for the overhead microphone. So it's just on a stand. The stands aren't the sturdiest, but if you're not moving them around and they just kind of sit there, it's fine. I do have some sandbags on the bottom just in case to help keep it from falling over. But this main key light does have the lantern and just lights up more of the room. And the second light I have as the fill light is just the other GVM, same one. And I have it on an actual C-stand, and both of these are basically at a 45-degree angle from me. So one is off to my left, off to the right, at about a 45-degree angle, and I found that to be the best. You still get, depending on how I have my face angled, you'll get some reflection in my glasses, but for lighting myself and the other people around the table on the podcast, having them at this angle seems to be the best, and it get a nice fill on everybody. On the fill light, I do have a different softbox, which is the Amaran SE Dome, and this thing's been great. It is big. It's a lot bigger than I thought. It's even bigger than the lantern softbox I have. So if you're in a small room, you may want to go with the mini, because this does take up a lot of room. Luckily, I have the room for it. I don't know if I would be able to fit another one on here just because of the C-stand for my main light, but this thing's awesome. It's a little bit cheaper than the other one. This one isn't the easiest to set up, but then once you set it up, if it's something that you're not taking up and putting down a lot, this works great and saves you a bunch of money. I think I found it on sale for like 80 bucks, but generally it's around 99. whereas the other version is like quite a bit more than that. So if it's something that you're just going to keep in place and not take down a bunch, then the SE version would work perfectly. It's basically set up the same. It comes with a grid and everything like that. So if you want to have the grid on there, you can. And it's awesome. But keep in mind, it is large. And so you may, like I said, if you have a smaller, tighter area, or if you're using it like in your desk and you're kind of against the wall, may check out with going with the mini. But the nice thing about these lights is it comes with plenty of cord. So depending on how far you have to go, you should have plenty of cord with these lights to actually make it to your outlets. They come with these Velcro attachments if you want to light the actual adapter part to the light mount and kind of get it out of the way. That definitely helps clean up the area a lot. And you can also use batteries with these. If you have the specific battery for these lights, you can do that. But since I just use them in this setup, I don't take these out on the road or anything. I just use the adapters and have just regular power running to them, and they work great. And for a hair light, I recently got the Amaran T2C RGB tube light. This is the 2-foot version. They also make a 4-foot, but this is something to help kind of separate yourself from the background. You hear a lot of people talking about 3-point lighting in the hair light. I think the hair light, it's not necessary, but does help kind of separate me from the black background that I have. So it does kind of shine on the top of my head, and you could see it on my shoulders. If I were to turn that off, it'd just kind of be, all that would go away. So having it shine on the back of my head and shoulders, again, just helps it separate me from the background. And it is RGB, so you can do any type of lighting. Right now I have it set at 5600 just to match these lights. I did try it to match with the accent lights, which we'll talk about in a second, but then it just kind of made the desk a little too yellow. So I just kept it at the 5600 Kelvin. And the cool thing about this light is it is either battery operated, or you can just have it plugged into an AC adapter, which I currently have it going through just the AC adapter since, again, everything just kind of staying put. It's a little bit easier. But if you want to take that cord out and put in the battery, and then you can use it around, that is another option as well. The battery does have some weight to it, so keep that in mind. But you can throw it anywhere. You can use that as an accent light or anything like that, not just a hair light, but that's how I use it. And they also make the 45-degree grid for it. I actually found it on a Black Friday deal where B&H included that with the light when you bought it on sale as well. So I definitely recommend a lot of this stuff that I upgraded to, I bought on holiday sale. So I definitely recommend keeping an eye on that stuff and buying it at the right time. Black Friday, Cyber Monday is where I got a lot of these. But I just think that hair light kind of just fills in the light better and then kind of separates us from the background. And it's a really good high quality light. And then the last piece of lighting I have are these accent lights I have behind me. These are just small little Ulanzi. There's several different brands on Amazon, but the ones I have are Ulanzi branded, and they're just little lights that you can basically mount on cameras because they have a shoe mount as well. But I just use these to set up and add a little bit different color in the background, and they're super affordable and cheap, and they have obviously RGB functions, so you can do any type of color you want. And they don't take up a whole lot of room. They are battery charged, so I do charge them before every video. And they seem to last pretty long. They'll make it through an hour-long podcast, no problem, with some battery life left. But also with these lights, I also use these when I'm taking my thumbnail shots or doing B-roll. I'll use them as like a different type of lighting. If I need to light up the product or something a little bit different, I can just easily either mount this to the top of the camera or hand hold it and then just get kind of a different type of lighting, which is super handy. So that way I'm not moving these LED lights around as much. I can just pick one of those up, change the color on them if I need to, and then get a little bit different brightness on the product. Makes it super easy to work around that as well. And the last pieces of gear that we'll talk about is what you're watching me on right now are cameras. And I do have, obviously said plural, I do have 2 cameras now. I originally started with the Sony ZV-E10, and I paired that with the Sigma 16mm 1.4 lens. It's a prime lens, it's great, works really well with that ZV-E10, and I feel like the ZV-E10 was a great learning camera. It was obviously a lot cheaper than some of the full frame cameras, and at the time when I was actually buying it, that's kind of when Sony stopped producing those cameras, so I bought the last one at Best Buy. So I was kind of stuck with that one, but it's been a great camera to learn on. That's pretty much the only lens I use, and with it being a prime lens, you can't really zoom too much. There's like an optical zoom in there that does a little bit, but you pretty much just have to move the camera back and forth depending on, the frame of shot that you want. But that's been a great camera, great 4K quality. All the videos up until recently have been shot with that. But I recently finally bought what I would consider my dream camera, which is the Sony a7 IV. This thing has been awesome, and it's been a huge difference between the ZV-E10, because the ZV-E10 is a APS-C crop sensor, so the crop is like a 1.5 crop from a full frame. So the full frame, once I got that, after being used to the crop sensor, is just insane to me. I usually, on the podcast where I have 3 people sitting around the table, the ZV-E10 was about 8 feet away, just so I can get everybody within the shot. Now with the a7 IV, even with the 3 people around, I can still reach out and grab the a7 IV. It is that much closer to us than compared to the ZV-E10. And the lens I have paired with the Sony a7 IV is the Sony FE 1.8 20G. And that's basically a 20 millimeter lens. I thought about going with the 24 millimeter G Master, but that was a lot more expensive. And this one has just pretty much everything that one does. A little bit wider of a shot, but the autofocus on this thing is awesome, especially compared to the Sony ZV-E10 with that Sigma lens. The autofocus wasn't the best. I would always have to have somebody come click on the back of the LCD screen to put me in focus, because it didn't always track my eyes or anything like that. So there were a lot of times where the ZV-E10 was out of focus, and with it being so far away, I couldn't even tell because I couldn't even see the screen. And that's when I started with Ecamm Live, and then you have to find a way to get it back in focus. But with the a7 IV, with this lens I have on here, I've had no issues with autofocus. I have it set to human eye and everything, and it's awesome. I haven't had to manually change it or click on the LCD screen to make sure it focuses on me. It's been a night and day difference, and definitely nice that I don't have to worry about if I'm in focus or not. The ZV-E10 is not going anywhere though. It is primarily going to be a B camera now, or for whatever purposes I need, but the main camera is going to be this a7 IV. And what I actually have the camera sitting on is a newer tripod. With the one I originally had for the Sony ZV-E10, it's just an Amazon branded one, and it wasn't the sturdiest and easiest to set up. It was hard to get the legs to all get level and everything, and I have knocked it over a couple times with the camera on it. It's just not very sturdy. And so with this being a much more expensive camera, I decided I want something a lot more reliable. Benro is the brand, but it was on sale on B&H Photo and had a bunch of good reviews. And it was definitely a lot cheaper than some of the way more expensive brands. I'm like, I just need this for the headshot and maybe some pan and tilt B-roll, and that is it. But the way this thing sets up, it is a lot more sturdy, so I don't feel like I'm going to accidentally bump into it and it fall over, because that would definitely suck with as much money as this lens and camera was. So I definitely wanted to make sure I got a sturdy tripod, and that is that Benzo video tripod. And then to get 4K footage from the camera to my computer, since I'm not recording to an SD card, I'm recording everything in the Ecamm, I do use an Elgato Camlink 4K. And I've used that even with the Sony ZV-E10, because you can take just a regular cable, USB cable, and hook it up from the camera to the computer, but then you're limited to about, I think, like 720p, maybe 1080 in the a7 IV. But to get 4K, you actually need to use a capture card, and the best one I've had luck with is the Elgato Camlink 4K. And luckily, they've actually come down in price. So definitely, if you want to stream live streams or anything like that, I would definitely recommend getting a 4K Camlink for your camera if you're not recording to an actual SSD in your camera. And I believe that's it. Everything else is the same. If you saw that initial video, you'll see I have a closet here where I keep all the spare microphones, gadgets, and other gear that I'm not using, where I'll put it away, stuff in there. So check out that video and you can see some of the other stuff and where I have it organized in there. Still have that recording sign out in front of the door, so that way my wife knows if I'm recording a video, I'll have that on, it says recording, and she knows not to walk in here or anything like that. But like I said, I'll post a link to everything in the description below on Amazon. Also check out like B&H Photo. If you are in school, like whether it be like high school, college, or whatever, sign up for a B&H Photo's education program, because they can also give you discounts on just regular price stuff. So having that discount on top of the sales as well, sometimes they'll do a discount plus a sale. and that's how you can really get good deals on B&H Photo's website if you're a student. So definitely check that out. All you need is your student email, and it's pretty easy to sign up. But if you guys have any questions on any of the gear I'm using or anything like that, let me know down in the comments. But just wanted to show you an updated studio setup on how I've kind of changed everything. It's definitely been a learning curve and everything, but been really fun. Like I said in the podcast that I definitely have had the gear acquisition syndrome, but I think I pretty much got everything I want now and set up, so that shouldn't hopefully be a problem. But if you guys found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next video.